Hi, I'm Dennis O'Hara with Century 21 Celli, and joining me today is Dan Bello of Guild Mortgage. Dan is one of our trusted mortgage lenders that our agents and managers work with all the time to find the best deals and rates for our customers. Dan, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Dennis.
So here we are in February of 2024, and we're looking forward to a robust spring market, we hope. But why don't you give us an idea of where things stand right now with the market?
Yeah, absolutely. So we all thought as 2023 kind of cleared the books that we had seen um, inventory issues and we were ready to turn the page to the next year, which we're still seeing a lot of the same market that we saw in 2023. And just to give viewers a quick synopsis of sort of how that impacts financing and what we've seen over the years, I want to go back to when I first got into the business in 2004 and how things have sort of changed. I got into the business in 2004, which was really an awesome market for real estate transactions. There were lots of buyers, there were lots of properties. People were obviously positive about the real estate market at the time. And we know that eventually, due to a number of conditions, some bad mortgages, some lot of real estate speculation, we entered the Great Recession in 2008, and we saw that market evaporate, and we went into a very, very dark time for many people who were in this business, many people who owned real estate. Foreclosures were high. Unemployment rate was skyrocketing. I remember writing loans and then 2 weeks before closing, having the borrower call me and say, I lost my job. So it was a completely different time in real estate. And we exited that sort of Great Recession and we went into a period of time where the market was sort of healing. People started getting jobs back. It wasn't great. '09 through 2012 were some difficult times as well. And there wasn't a ton of optimism in the real estate industry. I mean, people definitely who bought houses back then, it turned out to be a great investment, but I think a lot of people were still skeptical about the real estate market. Then we went from 2012 all the way up into about 2019 of just a period of interest rates declining, people getting really optimistic about housing and inventory. Every single year from 2012 all the way to 2019, I remember having conversations with people saying, hey, do you see a lack of inventory? And we're having an inventory issue. And it only exacerbated and got worse as the time went on. Get into 2020, 2021. We all know what happened with COVID. Interest rates plummeted. Real estate market was insane. And now we're seeing a period in which I like to call it as the worst inventory levels I've ever seen in 20 years, or the most
Really?
difficult inventory levels, I will say, primarily fueled by people who got those either purchased with incredibly low interest rates or refinanced into incredibly low interest rates. And now people are clinging on to those. And really what we're seeing transacting or people moving are people who have to move, right? So a lot of people hanging on to their property because they don't necessarily have to move.
Mhm.
But obviously divorces or people relocating for work or people who are just stuck in a small house and their family has grown. So really we're dealing with, on the buyer side, trying to help people get into properties and find different techniques, whether it's off-market listings or seeing a lot of people purchasing properties from family members, using whatever techniques we can to find housing for people that are out looking. I think inventory is still this year, it's going to pick up into the spring market. It's absolutely going to pick up. We think interest rates are going to decline, which is going to help people get off the fence to list their house, which is going to give buyers properties to obviously look at. So we anticipate inventory will get better, but we don't think that the inventory issue is going to be solved, meaning we're going to see a proper supply and demand, balance. We're still going to be out of balance.
And now, what type of opportunities does this provide for, say, sellers? I mean, are they listing houses at premium prices, or are they, demanding, more of a favorable terms
Yeah.
of purchase, things like that?
Yeah, both. I mean, if you're a seller and you are in a position where selling makes sense for you, I would say, at least now, especially, I don't think you're going to get better premiums than you have in I mean, now you're going to get the best premium for your house.
Mhm.
And when I say now, I'm actually talking about like February and March, right? A lot of people say, hey, I'm going to wait to list until April, May, June, because that's when people are looking for homes. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's all supply and demand. We just talked
Yeah.
about big supply and demand. Well, let's talk about it on a micro level. Right now, in February and March, no one's listing their house because it's a mindset of, I wait until the spring. If you list that house now, the amount of eyes that are going to be on your house are greater than if you list. You're still going to do well if you list in the spring, but the amount of eyes looking at your property are going to be greater in the winter than they are in the spring. So, I
Yeah.
mean, if I was looking to sell a house, I would be listing in January, February, March would be my ideal time in this market currently.
Yeah. And now I know we all also run into the issue of people who I'd love to buy a new house, but I can't afford to until I sell my old one. So, how did the we work around that issue?
Yeah. A lot of people are of the mindset that they need to sell to buy, because either they need the equity in their property or they just assume that they have to sell to buy. And some strategies that we've been using, both myself and I've talked to a lot of the agents that I work with, is helping buyers shift the mentality of I've got to sell to buy, and talking to that potential homeowner about what being a landlord might look like. And a lot of people have never considered that, right? Like I've got a single family home or I've got a two-family home. Um, even the people with the single family home. I mean, if you own a multifamily home, you are in some way a landlord. But if you own a single family home, talking to your agent about what it would look like if you were to rent that property. And with housing being in a shortage, so aren't rentals. And people are shocked if they've got a decent single family home, what they could hypothetically rent it to, or excuse me, rent it for.
Mm.
Um, and there are ways that you can, before you rent that property or vacate that property, tap into the equity of that property without selling it, convert that property to a rental property in which you have your mortgage payment covered. Because remember, the reason why they have that house currently is they probably have an interest rate with a 2 or a 3 in front of it. So their mortgage payment is very likely very low. Convert that property into a rental property in which now not only your mortgage payment is covered, but you might actually have cash flow coming in. We've set up a vehicle on that property to tap into that equity so that you can convert it into the next property that you're looking to purchase.
Mhm.
And it allows people to not have to worry about that sale to buy. They now have got a positive potential cash flow on their existing property. They've become real estate rich, and very likely their first house is going to be still appreciating in value. And over 10-year periods, we've only seen one time in the past, when many years back, one time in which over a 10-year period, real estate has not produced positive gains in a 10-year window.
Mhm.
So it's a great way to build wealth, and it's a great way for real estate agents to get their buyers into the next property without having to worry about selling the first one to buy.
Yeah. Wow, that's sounds like an interesting prospect. So, let's talk a little bit about Guild Mortgage. And I know you were licensed in what, four states?
I'm licensed to write in Mass, New Hampshire, Maine, and now Rhode Island is relatively new. Used to just be Mass for a long period of time. And then obviously affordability and lack of inventory here led people to New Hampshire. And I'm seeing the same thing now happening, where people are going from the Boston area down to Bristol County, and some are going even to Rhode Island to get more affordability. So yes, those four states.
Yeah, great. And so, what types of issues do you see coming up that are affecting people's eligibility for loans and products that you all that
Yeah, I don't
sell?
see it. I don't look at it as issues, more as I look at sort of opportunities for home buyers, right? So we're always looking for that idea or that niche. For example, we talked about converting the mindset of getting a buyer to convert their original property into an investment property to help them seamlessly get into the next one. So we're constantly looking for maybe ideas or concepts to help people open doors.
Mhm.
There are always going to be products to help with affordability. Very popular in the past 2 years has been a temporary buy down to help people get into a house with the prospect of refinancing when rates go down. So we're always going to have those products, but I think it's more educating people on the value of real estate, and also understanding that, big question is timing for a lot of people. When should I buy? Should I time? Should I wait for interest rates? And helping them understand that getting your foot in the door as soon as possible is probably the best prospect for, if you're in the position where owning real estate timing wise is right for you. Get your foot in the door. And that's really those types of conversations are what I'm having with people.
Yeah, that's good advice. So let's say I'm someone who may be looking to establish a mortgage sometime later this year. I'm not quite ready yet, but looking into the future, what sort of things should I be thinking about now, before I contact an agent or a mortgage broker to get the process started?
Absolutely. If you've got revolving debt, I'm hammering down or paying down revolving debt, anything credit card related. I'm coming up with a personal budget, right? Because when you speak with a lender, they're going to pre-approve you for what you qualify for. That we want to make sure that aligns with sort of what you're personally comfortable with. A lot of times my initial calls with people when they want to just get started, I ask them, have you created a personal budget? And a lot of times the answer is no, I've never done that. And that's something that I always recommend individuals come up with their own personal budget. Those are two quick things that they can do. And a lot of other times people don't know what they can personally afford because maybe they're living at home with mom and dad. And what I tell them is, okay, for the next 3 months until you get to the pre-approval process, pick a number and put that number each month in a savings account, whether it's $2,500, $3,000. If you can do more, figure out where that break even is, where all of a sudden you say, okay, I just put $4,000 in a savings account, but I had to dip into it to pay my bills. This is a real good indicator of what you would be able to do in the future with the mortgage. 4,000 might be your tipping point where now you can't make your monthly payments without having to dip into savings. So figure out where that break even point is if you live at home and you don't currently have a housing expense.
Well, anything fun coming up that you want to talk about? Anything big plans you have for the spring or the summer?
Looking forward to the spring market. I mean, we are all in the business waiting for that first round, which we expect probably in March, maybe the end of this month. That first round of inventory to really start it's trickling on now, but when it comes in on bulk, there are a plethora. There are so many buyers waiting to take advantage of this spring market. Even with rates, obviously hit their peaks over 8% the end of last year, came back down substantially, and have sort of leveled off to a number that's not as low as we had seen in the past, but high sixes on average, mid sixes, low sevens, depending on your scenario. Buyers have become accustomed to these rates and are still really, really waiting for inventory and waiting to buy. So if you're a seller, get ready for tons of potential offers on a property that you may be listing. And if you're a buyer, get pre-approved, come up with a game plan, talk with a lender who's local to the area, knows the market, and can really advise you and come up with a strategic game plan so that when you see a property you like, get ready to pounce and you can put your best foot forward and know how to put your best foot forward.
Awesome. Well, Dan, I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today, and I appreciate all that you do at Guild Mortgage to make our lives easier in dealing with our clients. So anything else you'd like to touch on?
That's it. Yeah. Have a great spring, and hopefully it comes sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. Dan Bello, Guild Mortgage, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for watching.
Thanks for having me.